morning, everyone. My name is RoseAnna's, and I am a victim and survivor of a drunk driver. When my nephew Casey called and asked if I would like to give a speech presentation for Shattered Dreams, I became a bit nervous, as I'm sure most of you can tell that I am right now. I didn't hesitate. I told him that I would. But as this day drew near, I thought about calling Casey back and telling him that I just couldn't do it. I was getting so nervous and so scared. But then I got to thinking, if God gives me a command, I know that He will enable me to do it, regardless of my fear. It is by the grace of God that I am able to be here, to speak of my experience and what I had endured. The night of January the 24th of 1992, me at the age of 32, and my sister-in-law, San Juana, who was only 24. We were heading back home from dropping off some movies, but needless to say, we didn't make it home that night. We were struck by a drunk driver who was driving at 108 miles per hour. This accident cost my sister-in-law her life and the lives of 2 other women who were in his car. I can't speak for the families who lost their loved ones. I can only describe the events as they happened to me and how I remember them. My life was changed forever that night. I was driving down 24th Street going east, when looking ahead of me, all I could see was a large dark shadow swerving from left to right, moving so fast I could not figure out what it was. I just remember screaming at San Juana to hold on. Next thing I knew, when I came to, I was pushing the airbag away from my face as it was deflating. I could smell burned rubber of tires, the smoke, and I could see steam coming from the hood of my car. In that particular moment, I had no sense of time. All I remember is one of the paramedics coming up to my window, and I asked him what had happened. And he told me that I was involved in a really bad car accident. He asked me not to move because I could possibly have my neck broken. And he said since I was the only one that was conscious, that I would be the last one to be removed from my car. I asked him if my sister-in-law was okay. And he said, "I'm sorry, we didn't know you had a passenger." So they went around and they had to use the jaws of life to get her out. And I heard when the paramedic said that she still had a pulse. So they immediately put her in an ambulance. And she was taken to the emergency room here in Plainview. Later, she was airlifted by Air Care to University Medical Center in Lubbock. One of the women in the car, the drunk driver's car, was pronounced dead at the scene. And the other young lady, she died upon arrival at the emergency room, also here in Plainview. The drunk driver was also airlifted, and he was taken to UMC. They were both placed in ICU. I was then admitted into the emergency room here in Plainview, where my husband and my oldest sister were notified by the police officers about my car accident. And from what I was told by my sister, my legs were shattered, and I was going to have to be taken to Lubbock UMC. Upon arrival, I was taken in to repair both of my legs. Doctors took 26 hours to repair my right leg, with plates and pins and screws, and my left leg was another 9 hours. I also suffered broken ribs and a broken wrist, and then I was placed in ICU, where I remained there for about a week. I was unrecognizable, in dreadful pain, and completely helpless. I was moved to a room where all I could think of was my 2 boys and my husband, who needed me at the time. The doctors and the nurses were coming in 2 to 3 hours to relieve the pain that I was in, by way of morphine drip. A week and a half later, I was released from the hospital. Three days later, on Valentine's Day, my sister-in-law, San Juana, she went into cardiac arrest, and after several attempts to resuscitate her, she died. The months that followed were so painful. I was in a wheelchair for several months. I was in and out of the hospital, undergoing multiple surgeries to my right leg. Every day was so difficult, and the nights were filled with restless pain. I couldn't do anything for myself. My mother, my sisters, and my close friends would come by to help cook our meals, to do our laundry, and to run our errands. They helped me as much as they could. My husband would take off from work to take me to the doctor appointments, carrying me to and from the wheelchair. He would stay up with me for hours to comfort me from the pain that I was in and to make sure that I was taking all of my medications. He cared for our boys, Derek, who was 9 at the time, and AJ, who was 7, taking them to school and helping them with homework. He was doing everything that I normally would do. I had wonderful nurses making home visits 3 to 4 times a week. Physical therapists would also make visits to help me learn to walk again. But every time that I would bear weight on my right leg, I would break it. I eventually had an ankle fusion, which consisted of more hardware. I remember one of my doctor visits that I asked him to show me on the x-rays where he had placed all those plates and pins and screws in my ankles. And he grabs my ankle and he says, well, you have a screw here, and you have a screw here, and you have a screw here. Well, you're just all screwed up. My doctor was such a jokester. He was always trying to keep my spirits up. I had bone marrow transplants and many different procedures trying to save my right leg. This went on for 3 years, until March the 31st of 1995. I developed a severe staph infection, and there was nothing more the doctors could do to save my right leg. I had to have my leg amputated. I just couldn't see myself without my leg. I just didn't want to live anymore. After my amputation, I was placed in a rehab center in Lubbock, where I would have to learn to walk with this prosthetic device. This was so difficult for me. I knew then that my life would never be the same. And to this day, the swelling, the blisters, and constantly being fitted for a correct prosthetic leg are my everyday struggles. As for the drunk driver, he was given the maximum sentence of 25 years in prison. This is only part of the consequences of drinking and driving. You make that choice. Yesterday morning, I stood among you guys, and I watched the reenactment myself. The sounds of the ambulance, the police cars, people being placed on gurneys, all that brought back painful memories of my accident. As I watched, I could hear some of the snickering and lack of attention. But I stand here today in hopes that you can take this serious and walk out of here knowing that you can have fun without drinking. You have your own life ahead of you, so don't shorten it by making mindless decisions. The Lord has been my strength through all this, and I could not have made it without Him. I give all the honor and glory to God, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm asking you to think twice before getting behind the wheel while intoxicated. Please don't let this happen to you. Don't you do this to anyone else. I want to thank everyone for listening and for giving me the opportunity to tell my story. Please be wise, be safe, and God bless you all.